smartest guy in any room he walks into, as compassionate and as decent as he might be, and incidentally, as moderate as he is. You know, he has said from the beginning, I am a moderate, and the right wing won't have any of it. He's a communist, he's a socialist, he's something. No, I'm a moderate, he says. And the left won't have it either. Nice, just sneak it in and then he'll do what we want him to do. No, he won't. He is a moderate, and he's a smart guy and a decent guy, but he's also a moderate. But here's what history tells us. Lyndon Johnson, the most effective politician of his generation, passed the most far-reaching civil rights legislation in history. No one could have done it but Johnson. He was not a member of the Black Freedom Movement. Never. Never part of it, never participated in it. Franklin Roosevelt wasn't part of the labor movement. And Abraham Lincoln never belonged to an abolitionist party. And that's significant because these three presidents who go down as history as these great men, well, Johnson not so much. And there's a cautionary tale there too, because Johnson burned up his accomplishments in the furnaces of war. That's always a possibility for American leaders, always. And that's something we should worry about and mobilize to not allow. And in that regard, parenthetically, when people kind of are acting as if Obama can save us, or will Obama save us, the answer to that is no. But the real truth is, we can save Obama. That is, we as a mobilized force for peace and justice could save the Obama administration. He will not save us. So the question is, what's the press you're putting on yourself? What are you demanding of yourself? And then, yes, we can also make demands on the president and on that administration, but only insofar as we're willing to mobilize, organize, and the kind of movement we need to mobilize and organize is a movement of organizers. One of the exciting things about this election was it was the most participatory election I've ever seen, perhaps ever in history. More people got out and knocked on more doors and spoke to more strangers. My brother I'm not a Democrat, but my brother's a Democratic Party activist, and he spent a lot of time in Wisconsin and Indiana. You know, my brother, he called me as running up towards the election. He spent a lot of time in Indiana, and he said, Obama's going to take Indiana. And I said, gee, the polls don't say that. And he said, no, I'm here. I can tell you. Everyone I talk to is for Obama. I said, well, where are you now? And he said, I'm at Starbucks. I said, get the hell out of Starbucks. Of course everybody's for Obama at Starbucks. Go to Dunkin' Donut. Talk to somebody. Anyway, it's madness out there. But the point really is that this was a participatory event. Many young people, many of you participated in it. And the spirit of it is very, very important and worth noting. The spirit of yes, we can. The politics of 9/11, the politics of fear and war and violence and the stripping of our civil rights, all of that, the page is turned. Now it's yes, we can. But it's up to us to say, yes, we can what? Yes, we can fill in the blank. And here is where the responsibility on you and on me becomes most serious. And I want to argue that this is a moment of movement making or movement building. And that movement making and movement building requires certain things of us. And I want to just briefly outline it, and then I want to really have a dialogue of questions and answers. But this is the way I've been thinking about it quite a lot. The crisis that we're facing is a crisis of rising expectations. Yes, we can, on the one hand. And on the other hand, real limitations. Not imagined limitations, real limitations. So, yes, we can, but we can't actually, when we say yes, we can't actually have the American dream. That is an endless series of single-family homes just blanketing the world. No, we can't do that. Yes, we can, but no, we can't actually have everybody driving a car. And actually, we ought to be, Obama, I think, very wisely talked last weekend about, over the weekend, about reducing their stockpile. I wish you were also talking about reducing the automotive stockpile. Isn't it time that we have sensible public transportation? Isn't it time that we rethink how we get around? I mean, I got a fist pump back there. Is that a terrorist fist pump?
Terrorist jab.
But so, three things that I think are required of you and are required of me, and are required if we're going to make anything out of this particularly precious, fragile, and fascinating moment that we're living in. First thing is, you cannot be a citizen. You can't be a good citizen, and you can't be an activist unless you're willing to open your eyes. You have to open your eyes to the world as it is, and that means seeing things that both make you ecstatic and interested and fascinated, and also that horrify you. You can't sit with your eyes closed and be an active citizen. It's just not possible. So opening your eyes is step one, and I'm going to go back to it. Step two is doing something about it, acting on whatever the known demands. And step three is rethinking, criticizing yourself, rethinking whether everything you did made all that much sense. So there's a poem by Mary Oliver, and in the middle of it there's a little piece called Instructions for Living a Life. And that's really all I'm saying. When Mary Oliver says it is, pay attention, be astonished, do something. I kind of like that. Pay attention, be astonished, do something. No, I want to say pay attention. You can't be an activist, you can't be a clear thinker, you can't be a citizen, you can't be a moral person unless you're willing to open your eyes. So let's take a couple of historical examples. Y'all are against slavery, right? No? Yes? Yeah, I want something, and amen, you're against slavery. Great, thanks, God almighty, wake up. Pay attention, for Christ's sake. Okay, so we're against slavery, and good for us. And for those of us who are white in the room, and if it was 1840, do you imagine you'd been against slavery?
Yeah.
Good. I hope so. I think maybe we would have been, all riding with, Harriet Tubman or John Brown or somebody. I like to think so. So let's flatter ourselves. Absolutely, 1840, we would have been hardcore abolitionists. But if we were hardcore abolitionists, let's just remember this. We would have been against the law. We would have been against our parents. We would have been against tradition, common sense, the Bible, our preacher, our brothers and sisters, and almost everybody we knew. So what the hell? We're all abolitionists now. And we like to think we'd have been abolitionists then. Would we have been? We're not sure. But at least it was a question, it's important to note, it was in contention then. Abolitionism was known then. It wasn't like, Thomas Jefferson knew that there was abolitionism. It's not like he didn't choose, he chose. And it's also interesting to note, and important to note, that Thomas Jefferson could both write the Declaration of Independence and rape Sally Hemings, and possibly on the same day. It's true. So, he's great, and yet not so great, right? True. So, it's important to remember that about history, that we like to smooth things over, and in our soundbite culture, we want good guys and bad guys. But okay, let's imagine 1840. So, let me take another historical example. You all are for a woman's right to vote, right?
Yes.
Male voices, please.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. It's never good night. I gotta keep waking you up here. Okay, sure, we're all for a woman's right to vote. 100 years ago? Yes. The argument against women's voting 100 years ago was they'll just vote like their husbands and fathers. That was the major argument against same argument that's made today about why kids shouldn't vote. I'm a huge advocate of, I don't want to get into it because it's too controversial, but kids should vote, of course. They'll just vote like their parents, so what? Aren't they citizens? Apparently not. Of course, felons should vote. I don't want to get into all that. Okay, but the point is, if you were for a woman's right to vote, you'd have been against the law, against tradition, against the Bible,